some of our brothers and sisters in the occupied zone. The chair is against the walls. The chair is against the walls. John has a long mustache. John has a long mustache. It's 12 o'clock, Americans, another day closer to victory. And for all of you out there on or behind the lines, this is your song.
And welcome everybody to a special live edition of the whatever this show is. We are debuting a new project for Second Amendment, a new project for gun websites, and we have a video over on the YouTube's, which is about to premiere. So I believe Kingpin is out there. Thanks for joining us live. Let me know if the audio is doing okay, and I'm going to rush over and look at, this is us. I'm going to go find my video that's going to premiere here in a second. That'll explain the project, hopefully in a nutshell, that we are going to, boom, premieres right now, right? Oh, premieres in 23 hours, so I guess we have a little while. So Clover signed on for an hour, but it turns out we're going to be here for a little bit.
Right.
Why don't we just go ahead and spin the clock on this. So thanks, we got a minute now, so I thought we were rushing. We don't have to rush. We're definitely not rushing, but I thought we had to be in a rush. But anyway, Clover Tech is joining me today. Thanks for jumping in.
You bet.
So he's over in Texas. I'm over here in Arizona. We're using the power of GunTube, which is a pro 2A video hosting platform based out of South Carolina. When Mike built this a couple of years ago, he had an eye on the future, and he's been developing a live portion, which allows us, anybody who's in the gun community, to access this live community room, I guess. I don't want to call it a hangout because that's what Google used to call it, but we're going to call it like the online gun shop, gun show, like that aisle in the gun show in front of the vendors, or in front of the concessions, where everybody kind of hangs out and sits if they're tired, or drinks something and shoots the shit if they're trying to figure out how to explain to their wife that they're about to buy something. This is the online equivalent. It gives us a little room like this where we can feed to the tools, the platforms out there that we use as tools, like YouTube and others. Eventually will take the feed from GunTube, but mainly GunTube allows us to chat and share screen like I'm doing. I think I'm sharing the screen. And I'll shut up and turn this thing to, wait, I don't have the right one. I need to look at, this is the right one. I have this, how could I have this set to, this is visibility. Where's the time for these things now?
You have to click on the down arrow.
Next to visibility here?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. So we'll do this for, how about we do this for right now? I guess I could just say public, right? And not schedule, start immediately.
Right.
Then is what's stupid on YouTube. One of the reasons I hate this new one is you have to click done down here. And I always forget to do it because they constantly change this thing, and they have these little puzzles like we're mice. And that's our little cheese, is that the little thing went green over here. Am I done? Hey, it might be done because you click done. You got your little reward with the little green light. No, you're not done. You got to go over here and click save also. So get ready to do the little mind puzzle on YouTube.
Yeah,
now,
also, you can also change that from just the video view page too, real quickly, which is nice.
Well, they're not trying to fluff up YouTube and give them any kind of congratulations here or nothing.
Well, what I'm saying is they made one thing better and then the other thing worse.
But I didn't know you could change. You can change the time here somewhere? Or that's
no,
okay.
Yeah, where you look at your videos in the studio. Are you getting an echo from me?
No. It's just I have the volume up really high because I had the that intro music.
I'm getting an echo.
Now, I picked this awesome thing. Clover uses this one all the time when he premieres. So I recorded it, downloaded it, and then I added to the beginning of mine because they're going to give me one, but I want to watch it twice. This is the worst thing ever. This is to make people, I guess the idea is to like make people drink lemon juice and pickle, whatever the powdered stuff you put into pickle juice, like just make them just almost sick, and then your video is going to be great after this, right? Like everything is better. This is the worst thing ever, and here's why we're saying that. Not only does it look ugly and dumb, but here, listen to what it's doing to you. There's literally no culture on the planet. I've done some research. No culture on the planet likes this. This is universally disappealing, unappealing.
It's horrible.
This would be good for like torture. If you needed to make bugs leave your house. So I feel sorry for anybody that actually has to turn that part on and walk away or something. That's a mess. Anyway, it's making me wait 2 minutes. I guess I should be, instead of bitching about YouTube, talking about the future of the Second Amendment. So I've been doing this stuff for a while. It'll talk about that in the video. I guess I'll shut up because the video is about to explain all this. But we are premiering a new project. It's a crowdfunding effort. We'll explain more about that in this live show. We're about to watch a preview, which is the little video at the top of the campaign. We're about to watch the video that would introduce the project. Hello, I'd like to introduce you to our Shooter's Almanac, the next way to know our firearms community events and explore our Second Amendment history. Our shared values as gun owners have always brought us together, once only at gun shops and gun shows, but now online. Unfortunately, the persistent need to defend our positions and our property has also united us. Our goal with gun websites since 2004 has been to share our Second Amendment community and gun culture with everyone. Originally with websites and forums, sharing photos and later videos, Gun Websites has participated and shared on most social platforms. We've participated in live conversations, created communities, and encouraged others to join two-way awareness, the conversation, and this new media. After 15 years of watching trends, experiencing waves of attack, and seeing our fellow two-way advocates' motivation rise and fall, it's apparent that apathy might be the worst adversary for our Second Amendment. No one will ever take our second, but the lack of will and supporting the freedom that it protects are always a risk. So, the Shooter's Almanac is designed to do something new for 2A in a different way. It's created to inspire, inform, and motivate a new interest in firearms events and gun history. Now, in 2020, after 3 years of preparation and development, the Almanac will bring awareness to our Second Amendment history and credit those whose shoulders we stand on today. The Almanac offers daily, weekly, and monthly inspiration and direction. There's no advertising in the Almanac. Instead, we focus on organizations, individuals, museums, gun shows, and other elements of our gun community. We aim to offer a well-rounded, timeless experience for the dedicated longtime gun owner and the novice. If you're creating gun content, if you participate in two-way conversations, if you attempt to open people's minds about guns, you will find something of value in the Shooter's Almanac. That's our challenge. Our crowdfunding campaign runs just 21 days. It'll end on the anniversary of the shootout at the OK Corral. We'll publish the Almanac in order for it to be available at the rally in Washington, D.C. on November 2nd. Join the team. Grab a copy for yourself. Grab a few to gift. Let your local gun shops know that they can buy a stack of them. We've included a place on the back where they can mark the books with their store info. Be part of the creation of our newest project with live workshops and conversations throughout the campaign. Thank you for being part of bringing new two-way projects to life. So that's the project in the 2 minute and 24-second nutshell. No, 29-second nutshell. I was just telling Clover I should have chopped 5 seconds off there out of principle. I feel bad. But there you go. So that's a whole nother video that if you want, you can go watch, but there's no point because you've already seen it. And it's at the top of the Indiegogo campaign. So there's a link over here. That's the link they want you to use. I think it's just because it's shorter. And then may or may not do some sort of, I don't know. Do you think that with this, there is a code here, which is just the campaign, but I bet you by putting it there, it helps their system or something. I don't know. It's the same stuff's up here, so I can't imagine it matters. There is a link here you can use. It's a little shorter. But there's also a Twitter and a Facebook. If you still use Facebook, I don't, so I definitely appreciate you using this Facebook link. The Indiegogo platform is a social media platform, very much like a YouTube or Facebook or one of the others. Instead of Facebook being all about, I don't know, forcing people to deal with a giant mess of a website, and then I guess text and pictures and video. It's just a mess. Where YouTube is mostly video, sharing video and commenting on video. You know, you got Instagram, which is all pictures. You got Twitter, which is the short messages and the comments on them. Indiegogo's thing is the crowdfunding project. So there's people like myself that create projects out of thin air and then use Indiegogo as both market research and venture capital. But there's also people like myself. I've funded quite a few projects on both Indiegogo and Kickstarter. There's people like myself that find value, find enjoyment in helping to back projects. I went to school for mushrooms when I was a kid. I went to school originally for renewable natural resource management, which is making sure forests work and stuff like that. And that got me interested in mushrooms. And I'm a big fat guy, so I like eating. I've always liked eating mushrooms. So when I started going to school, it was for the trying to grow mushrooms for food or whatever. And what was I going at with this? Oh, I've been backing some projects that are efforts to bring mushroom farming, I guess. I don't know. It's not technically farming, I guess, because for mushrooms, now that people have figured it out, you basically buy a bag of stuff from these people. And it's sometimes a log, sometimes it's a bunch of sawdust. It kind of depends on the type of mushroom and how it's going to flower and how you're going to eat it. But a lot of times it's as simple as just buying a bag, like a big heavy-duty baggie from someone that's got some stuff in it, and then sometimes poking some holes in it and putting it in a moist environment or a dark environment, the kind of stuff that mushrooms are growing, and having the same kind of mushrooms you'd buy at the store for anywhere from $1 or $2 a pound, or more like $1 or $2 per serving to more, right? Quite a bit more. And some of the fanciest mushrooms are expensive because they're too delicate to transport. So if it's something you're interested in, it has nothing to do with this project, but the concept is for $5, for $2, I often just back a project with $1 or $2 because I understand the platforms, and a lot of times having participants is just as valuable as having the actual income. In other words, by participating and helping to get the ball rolling on a project, you can sometimes attract others who would then value the project more because they see there's participation in it. So sometimes I'll drop $1 knowing full well that I'm not funding the project. I'm just helping to get that ball rolling. But again, like somebody who's in the middle of nowhere in Canada, maybe one I can think of, was basically getting everything set up in their someplace in Canada, just their backyard, basically sending these bags out to people, and now they're experiencing fresh mushrooms. It's sort of like fresh tomatoes or something. They're a lot better when you're actually getting some fresh or whatever. So they're able to experience that, and I didn't ever even contributed enough to get the bag of mushrooms or whatever. I'm not really all that interested in growing them myself right now. It's just that I like the idea of being able to bring that kind of project to life. I like eating mushrooms. I'm an advocate. So if a project brings awareness and accessibility to something like fresh gourmet mushrooms to regular people who, hopefully it becomes part of our nature. Back in the day, people had little gardens on their windowsill for, what is it? I don't want to say basil, but it's herbs and stuff. There's nothing to say people can't start figuring out places in the corner in the basement or the garage where, they've got all kinds of different mushrooms growing. They're fairly hardy. They kind of grow like weeds. As long as you're clean about it, as long as the source you get them from hasn't got other kind of mushrooms growing in there, they're basically plug and play. You slit a little hole in the bag and you get them wet, and then a couple of days later, there are a bunch of mushrooms. A couple of days later, there's a whole bunch more, and they kind of just crap out. They start kicking them out until they are done. And honestly, when you're all done, I don't want to get too much into mushrooms. You just take that stuff that's in the bag, you let it dry out, you incorporate it in even more stuff, kind of like baker's yeast and stuff, and you let that set for a bit, and now you've got twice as many mushrooms coming out of the next harvest. So mushrooms are fun, but the concept of crowdfunding, the platform of Indiegogo, is a big part of why we do these projects. We want to get Second Amendment awareness out there. So we've done patches before, we've done website projects, we've traveled, we've got 30 projects under the belt. Of course, the playing cards, we do those on Kickstarter because it's a bigger platform. But we do these projects on Indiegogo because when someone goes to Indiegogo and they've maybe backed a project and they've discovered how fun it is to watch projects happen, trust me, it's neat to watch somebody maybe with a restaurant or like these carts, me and my food thing. When I see somebody who's like starting a food cart, they are super appreciative when they can say, hey, I'd like to put a food cart in the middle of nowhere, some state in a flyover state, and there's not enough support here for this to really exist. It's not, no one's asking for this, but I'd like to see what happens if we create it. And then people all over the country throw $5 at it, and then boom, this guy's got the 700 or maybe $1,000, $1,200, whatever they needed to get the ball rolling. And then they find out, and it changes a little bit of stuff, and you get some diversity out there. It's an interesting experience. So once people back their first project and they start to look around, there's gun stuff up there. We're not the only ones doing gun stuff, so I'm not trying to pat myself on the back. I'm just explaining why we do these as crowdfunding, why I don't just go to the friends I know who are wealthy and say, hey, I think this is a good business plan or something, and I can buy these books for X amount if I buy this many, and I think I can sell them, right? That's not my goal here. My goal is to get the Second Amendment into people's hands in a different way. So we'll talk more about the Almanac specifically here, but I guess we're kind of roundabout talking about the overall concept of our projects in general, and now we'll kind of get into this one. So with all that said, Clover, there's no script here, as you can see. I'm going to start reading comments, and I brought you in because you understand what I'm trying to do here. You are one of the few people that's had one of the drafts in your hands. What am I missing? I'm kind of just starting off the ball here randomly. What direction should we go here? Where are we going?
I don't know. I mean, probably if we're gonna talk about the Almanac, just to cover. I know you've got a process. I mean, one of the things that you told me, and I mean, I think it's valid, and it's very cool about the Almanac is no wasted space, right? So you've got multiple things in a way. I think you've got multiple things in multiple locations, right? That way, if it does get overlooked in one spot, I mean, it kind of can get picked up in another.
Perhaps. I mean, there's definitely things like, the anniversaries and things like that are going to potentially be in there more than once. Some things like the grand or something. There's the day it was invented. There's the inventors, the day he was born, let's say, the day that the patent was invented or whatever. I'll say the gun was kind of created. But then for the grand, at least, and some of the others, there's like the day that the Army first incorporated it or accepted it into inventory. So there's things like that for sure that would be duplicate. People that are maybe involved in an organization, maybe I've got them in there like it's their birthday or they did something of note on a specific date that they were involved in. But then on another page, it talks about the organization they're involved in and they're mentioned there as well. So I guess in that respect, yeah, there's some whatever. And I definitely didn't lay it out to where there's only one instance of everybody. Like I didn't really pay attention. Some people are probably in there like 4 times if they're active and do a lot of stuff, and other people are mentioned once. But like Colt or somebody who's kind of, Kalashnikov, I imagine they're probably in there a bunch of times. Let's see.
Right. So what was I've kind of got a question with the Almanac, and that's, so with all of the different things that are in there, we've got the calendar, and then you've got the list of shows, and you've got all the different organizations. Is the calendar sort of the primary thing with the Almanac?
No, if I'm basing it off of like the Farmer's Almanac or other types of almanacs, I know I've seen them for things like sports or I don't know, different areas of interest will have an almanac. So they're there to archive events. They're there to archive accomplishments, I guess. I'm gonna try to say like records. We don't have home runs. We don't have how long the longest horse race or something. We don't have bloodlines of something or something like that. But what we do have is organizations. We have individuals, and we have events. So yeah, there's a calendar in there. It's a weekly calendar, and then I guess you could say a daily calendar. It's laid out. Each page is a week, so there's 5 days on a page. So there's 68 pages in the Almanac. What is that? 52 of them, I guess. 53 are weeks, and each of those have days on them. So in that respect, there is a calendar in there. There is a way to thumb through and find out something specific from this date, or the other way around. Find out like when something happened through the table of contents. Find out what date that happened on. it's not really designed to be a reference as much as what entertaining, kind of inspirational. Like, oh, today's the day that so and so invented the such and such, or let's not forget that today's the day that such and such state got their CCW constitutional carry or got their CCW. So there's anniversaries and stuff like that in there. But like the almanac, there's the first page is the first page is the table of contents. The second page, though, is all the major events in the firearms community that happened in 2020. So major events, SHOT Show, NRA Show. Later in the year, you've got the Gun Rights Policy Conference. You've got the big machine gun shoots, and there's smaller machine gun shoots. There's like Blade Show, the medium level, I guess you'd call them, trying to be national events. And then there's some major regional and state level events. And I mean, I've got pretty tiny writing and quite a few. I guess I didn't count how many there are, but pretty much all the major events. So that's a list, right? That's a table, so that if you want to maybe have an idea of how to lay out the year, you know where those major events lie, what state they're in, and most of them we have the actual dates of when they're going to happen. Of course, as it gets closer to publication, I'll contact if an event, let's say in November of this year, hasn't happened yet, they're not publicizing their 2020 dates, more than likely, because I don't want to confuse anybody yet. But I could probably contact them and find out for the calendar part of it, or the timeline, when the 2020 event will actually take place. So anyway, there's this list of stuff like that. Now there's also a timeline. So again, the the Farmer's Almanac, at least the one that started in like 1773 or something, was designed to be a general reference. Are you familiar with the reference books that you find at like hardware stores or sometimes at police supply stores? The small books that are designed to fit even smaller format than this, like the size of a small Bible. They're very thin pages and just packed with tables and data sheets, what the ratio are for stairs, what kind of wire you might need for certain amperage. It's the kind of tables and charts and stuff that but you might not memorize, especially when you have a little book in your pocket that you know where to find the info. So they're reference guides to, source stuff that, before there was an internet, you'd have these reference guides. So in that respect, there's like timelines. So let's say you're having a conversation with someone and they talk about the Dick Act or the Dickey Act or whatever, or they talk about the 1938 FFA, Federal Firearms Act. Nobody thinks about that one. We think of the NFA, the 1934, but the FFA is where FFLs come from, and that happened in 1938. I only know it because I constantly look at this stuff, but normal people aren't going to remember that happened in 1938. Turn to page 3 of the book, and I've got a timeline of every significant event that's happened between the Second Amendment and yesterday, or at least, December of 2019. So when did Kevin start aiming for the truth? It's in there. When did the October Revolt happen? 1977. It's in there. So there's that kind of reference, so that as gun owners, we're aware of our history. There's little features on each page. Will feature either like you say, some data. Sections of the book are going to talk about museums and gun shows and the things that make our community diverse and interesting. Usually that's on the left side of the book as you open it. On the right side of the book as you open it, you're going to find focus on organizations and individuals, participatory, I want to say organizations again, but things like IDPA and Single Action Shooter Society is in there too, talking about who invented them, when, just little snapshots of the various aspects of our community. So again, maybe it's, as you're thumbing through, you discover something you didn't know about. Maybe it reinforces a date. I knew about Single Action Shooting Society, but when did they get founded? Where did they start? Just little data like that. That's not necessarily crucial for anything. Just gets us a little more well-rounded, makes the information a little more available. Then, like you say, there's schedules. I tried to have, it's probably not possible, but I have a fairly inclusive schedule, of a weekly schedule of all the different podcast, radio shows, and the video logs that go on throughout the week. Again, that's going to change, but for some of the things like the major syndicated radio shows, podcasters that have been doing it for a long time at the same time slot. Some of that's going to stay the same, and offer a times, a small TV guide, so to speak, for that stuff, or at least let people know it's out there. And if somebody does change their time slot, like Caliber Corner changed from Thursday to Monday a while back, something like that happens mid-year. Well, it's a printed document, so people don't expect it to be 100% current. At least they know Caliber Corner's out there, and if they want to listen to a gun-focused podcast out of Nebraska, they can listen to it on Mondays on gun channels or guntube.org. There's a gun show schedule in the back. One of the last pages is a list of all the major gun shows that happen specifically. So not just the big events like SHOT Show and stuff, but actual gun shows, the collector shows, the antique shows, Wanamaker, some of the bigger shows from the various promoters. And I'd like to, again, right now it's sort of almost a placeholder. I'm going to use this as an opportunity to contact some of the big promoters and find out what they consider their largest shows, and make sure that all those are included, so that the various regions know, what's their Wanamaker, what's their SAR show, so that, again, awareness. Maybe somebody's traveling, they can look at the Almanac and go, oh snap, I'm going to be there at the same time as this big gun show. I can add that to my list of things to do. I'm probably missing stuff. I've got down the spine on one side is quotes. So if there's somebody who was born that month or something significant happened, there's a quote that relates to it. Typically, I'm optimistic, so they're not pessimistic. Let's wait for the next World War in our basement, but they're more like, let's change the world by being, using the First Amendment. And then on the other side, it's a question and then an answer. So there's a quiz throughout the 50-something pages of the information there on the dates or the calendar. So you've got, I guess, 52 or something. I didn't really count, but 50-something questions and answers, so you can have some fun, maybe quizzing somebody, or use it if you're creating a podcast and you need some quizzes, or I don't know, sort of like one of those. It's just a little extra fun to it. On the outside edge, I don't know what you call it, like the opposite of the spine. And we'll have videos that talk about this stuff. I guess maybe I can poke to some of these. Not really. On this outside edge, though, this is the timeline I was talking about. On the outside edge, again, when you get to the calendar portion, the weeks, we have every state's Second Amendment, if they have one, listed there. And eventually, before it's published, we're also going to have a bit of an indicator of if they have concealed carry, if it's shall issue, if they've got constitutional carry. So you can kind of thumb through, not quite like a flip book. It's not that, you have to read it, so it's not quite like a flip book. But by flipping through the various pages, you can quickly see what every one of our 50 states Second Amendment might be, or their equivalent of a Second Amendment. They're almost always the second. That's kind of interesting. And then, again, there'll be a bit of a key to find out quickly. It's not going to be like a concealed carry guide or anything, but just a quick key. Again, if you're having a conversation with someone and what's the 16th state, that'll be in here. Now, it'll also be on the timeline. Each of the states that acquire constitutional carry, that's indicated in the timeline. That kind of stuff is in here. I could keep going. I guess there's going to be a couple other things that aren't in there yet. We'll see how the project takes off. I hope that it takes off, and I know I can spend some time on it. I've got some real estate in various portions of the pages that I have some ideas for, but if it just barely squeaks through, I might have to be worrying about other things throughout the month. So I'm going to play it by ear. This isn't, as I say in here, this isn't our first rodeo. It is the first time we're publishing, though. So the only real risks to it isn't really risk so much as just, we're going to have to get familiar with a new publisher, a different type of publishing. But it's in California, made in USA, so I'm not anticipating any problems. I mean, their job is to deal with people like myself who are, learning, and I'm not unable, I'm just not familiar. All right, so that's, I don't know how long we've been. Does it tell us anywhere how long we've been live? Probably over here. 29. I wanted to keep it about a half an hour. I'm going to go address questions. Clover, if you wanted to throw anything else out there, I don't know if I actually hit what you were asking.
No, I mean, that covered it pretty well. On the campaign, I mean, I'm not looking at, obviously you got Indiegogo, it looks like that now. What are the support levels and things like that look like for Indiegogo?
Right on. So yeah, it is a campaign, and we've pretty much kept it fairly basic. There's no stickers or patches or extra bells and whistles. This is a campaign to produce the almanac. I already have printed it out on our own color printer. Well, I borrow my friend's color printer, but I can print out one, right? That's easy enough, and I can do that for, I don't know, probably about $10 a print, or $10 each, because I have a, what am I saying? I've gotten an estimate from the printer locally
Right.
that it would cost me about $10 each to have them just printed on color printers. So that's kind of expensive. So if I have to, I could do it that way. But the goal is to get the things printed, not to raise money, not to fund the trip to DC. I'm e-begging, I'm e-mooching my trip to DC for free off of a whole nother e-begging campaign. This campaign is just to get the almanacs at the lowest price possible. So just like anything, well, I guess most things, there's a, what they call it, whatever you the more you buy, the smaller the price goes. So ideally we get ideally we get it at a price point where and I don't have stretch goals, but anyway, to answer the first question, what are the perks? The perks are just the book. I'll get into them in a second, but it's literally just the almanac. There are no other perks or bells and whistles. It's just getting the almanacs made, and every amount of dollars would just be to get more of them made, and then shipping. So right now they're at a price point that I had to just pick. I just picked. Let's say I can print. I don't know. I don't even remember. Maybe 1,000 or 2,000 or 100. It wasn't hundreds. It was in the 1,000 or 2,000. That gets mesmerizing after a while when you're trying to do math on what the potentials are. So you figure if you print 1,000, it might take, let's just put general math, 250 people to at the full retail price to get 1,000 printed. So if it takes 250, you got to figure 250 shipping. That's $1,000 right there. So 250 people shipping and envelopes and stickers and all that stuff. The printing, I just had to get printer ink. It's not expensive, but you got to factor all that stuff in. There's going to be fees, taxes, so all this stuff shifts as the project gets larger. The 10% that they take as a cut, is for processing and stuff, all shifts. So I just picked a price point is where I'm getting at, and I don't know if, and I picked a price point that allows me to have, if it all works, like a couple of hundred extra to just hand out and give away to people, trade or whatever. But it isn't a project to make thousands of extra or to make a profit. It's really just to make this thing happen and gauge experience with people. If they appreciate it or not, it's something that I've been working on for years. For my own interest, I put it online because that's what I'm most familiar with, but who knows if it's working online. This is putting it into a format that gets it into people's hands, and hopefully in a way that's different. So anyway, that's the concept, and that's the overall direction of the perks. So getting into the specifics of it, the book, the almanac, is going to retail for $7.62 because it's cool, right? So $7.62. If you do the early bird ones, you'll get it for $5. And there's 100 of those. Yeah, there's 100 of those. And this is all trying to, that means those are $500. So you got to figure out the overall price and then the shipping to 500 to 100 people. So I picked 100 for the early birds. And then there's an early bird. If you get two, it's also $5, so $10. And I guess there's 100 of those. And hopefully the people that are listening to this, others, will jump on the early birds, because that'll bring a whole bunch of backers in, and that'll put some money in the coffers. But altogether, that'll bring in 500 and whatever, 1,000 and 500, so 1,500. It'll only bring us halfway to the goal. So I will need more than those 200 people, and that's if 200 people. I don't get projects with 200 people very often. So then there's single copies. Once those run out, the single copy will be $7 instead of $7.62, mainly because they wouldn't let you put 62 cents in there. Otherwise, I would have charged you the 62 cents also. But two of them is $12, a little bit of a discount. 6 of them is $42. I don't even know if that's a discount. It might be a bit of a discount. The baker's dozen, again, I think there's a bit of a discount there, but you're probably paying like $5 an issue, I think, still here. They wouldn't let me do the math to make it 556. That was my goal. 762 for a single, 556 for multiples, but I couldn't do it. And then the Bakers are the big ones, the stack and the serious stack. I designed for gun shops or gun show promoters, somebody who might want to buy a bunch to hand out. And these are about $4, right? If you do the math, $4 a piece. If they can make a couple of bucks, that's what it's all about, right? Keep the gun shop in business. If they think it's an advertising thing and they stamp their name on the back and give it to people, if it's worth it, I don't know. So I just put those in there. I have no idea if these will be attractive to people or not. $200, $400, that's a pretty big investment. If they think it's something that works for their shop, that's what it's there for.
Well,
So that's, go ahead.
do you have on this somewhere? Do you have like they do on magazines and other things? Do you have like a price on it, a suggested price of some sort on it? Like
Yeah, and once I'll do more videos on the thing.
Mhm.
I don't think. Well, I guess let me try to play the video without sound here. There is a point in the video. See, what we're doing here is thumbing through my whatever dozen prototypes that I printed out in black and white.
Mhm.
At some point here, I start to thumb through it, and maybe you can kind of see. So you were asking me about the price. It's right there. You can't really tell, but it is in. It's printed on here. $7. Its price is $7.62, and on the back, I think you can see that in this frame of the video. Oh, let me get it. As it scrolls through the or up the back cover, it'll say yellow right there, $7.60.
Gotcha.
So yeah, I definitely put it because I think it's cool. I put it on there, but I also wanted to be able to offer it to gun shops cheaper. I mean, ideally, here's the other thing. I'm going to get in. I'm getting off track because there's so much to it. But right now, it would be like $4 to the gun shops. Let's say that this thing backs, right? I hope it will. Let's say it backs. I mean, I'll make it one way or the other. It's just that I'll have to start another one and make it $10 or something if it doesn't back at this level. Again, I kind of just picked something that I've never published before, so I don't know what to do. So I just picked a number. But let's say it backs, and let's say that it gets higher than the back. Well, again, there's not like I can throw you a sticker or something. There's no sticker to throw you. I can't afford to send extras necessarily. I might be able to, but I think once we get to a point where we are backed and there's any additional funding coming in, I think I might do some sort of a poll or some sort of a way to question the people that are involved.
Mhm.
I don't think Indiegogo gives me a way to question the backers through the system, but whatever. I'll ask the people that want to participate. But what I'd like to do, at least what I've been throwing around in my head, and this it kind of depends on if gun shops get on board. But let's say a couple of gun shops get on board at one of these two levels. So they're in the game, like they're making it happen, and they're anticipating 50 or 100 of these books to hand out at their shop or to do whatever they're going to do. If we can get the price down by backing it, and I do the math, and enough shops come on board that, I'm not really shipping 100 books to these guys. This isn't $400 in shipping to get the books to them. It's more like $20 in shipping to get the books to them, right? So that saves a lot of money on the whole campaign. What I'd like to do, if there's a lot of gun shops and the backers are cool with it, instead of trying to give everybody more bang for their buck, I'd like to make it cheaper for the gun shops so they can either give the books away easier because they cost them maybe, if we had enough published, these things would be under $1. They'll cost me under $1. That's just how printing works, I guess. If they set up their machine and they just let it run, it costs, X amount of paper. If they set up the machine and run it for 5 minutes, I still got to pay for them setting up the machine. So there's that cost of doing business or whatever. I don't know, that's the right word. There's a residual. I don't know what the word is for when they, there's you get more for your buck if they've got it already set up or whatever. Mm-hmm. So anyway, if we get enough made, I get these things down to $1. I don't need to charge the gun shops that much. So I can I don't want to charge them less because that would we need the money to make the project happen. But I could definitely send extra, create more than we originally anticipated because of the lower price, and then send more to the gun shops. So in other words, if they ordered 50 and were able to do it, send them 75 or 100 or whatever it comes out to. So right. I'm going to be creative. I didn't really set up stretches on this one because it's going to be a book, like what do you call it? Just a book where the outside is the heavier paper and the inside's paper, and it's nice and it's color and everything. But it isn't going to be like one of the books from the Second Amendment Foundation, those kind of books where they're like bound with like glue and everything. they're square and stuff like that costs 10, 15 times more. Like they cost a lot more to make them that way. So if it gets backed and people are like, oh, I'd rather have a a paperback style than a pamphlet style or whatever that's called, like, okay, we can bind it differently, maybe. Adding more pages, like, maybe we talked about it a little bit. I want to do eventually a shooter's almanac for hunting, a shooter's almanac for Second Amendment awareness, a shooter's almanac for reloaders that just talks about cartridges and important events in this, things like that. So I could do specific ones, but we could also add pages to address that stuff in this one. I kind of did the math originally. I came up to 68 pages because when I started building the thing and making my prototypes, that seemed about as much as you could fold reasonably. If you get too many more, you kind of have to go with a better binding. It becomes difficult to deal with the thing. It doesn't work as a booklet anymore or a book format. But we could add, sure, a couple more pages without a big deal. And I'm not sure if, again, what the backer's general feeling is going to be, what kind of backing it's going to get, and I'm leaving all that up. So we've done that in the past where there's been specific stretches, but I don't want to assume nothing, and I want to leave it up in the air. I want to let the project kind of develop this time as far as that goes.
Gotcha.
All right. So just talking about people, I'm going back to the chat over on the YouTube here. Talking about people about picking mushrooms. Yep, definitely. That's what I miss about being up north, is that we don't get as many mushrooms. And that means that people down here, they know about mushrooms. Old people know what mushrooms are, but regular people down here, normal age people, have, they only buy mushrooms at the store. They're not used to just finding really flavorful mushrooms on the trail, and being able to take them home and their grandma cooked them or whatever. So there's quite a bit of mushroom talk. Sorry about that, but not sorry. I like mushrooms too. Wish you knew more, but with my luck, I ended up in the hospital. You're talking about mushrooms. Firearms Policy Coalition is covering the assault weapons ban in a 3-part series. Okay. The worst trespassing incident. All right. Completely oblivious. Okay. Is anybody talking about the campaign in here? Well, no, they've just been talking about other things. So if anybody wants to if anybody wants to chat about the project, has any questions, this was an attempt to go live to introduce the campaign and hopefully get some pledges in there. We'll see if, not really pledges, get some people buying the dang almanac here, get the thing going. If you're not able to today, please send it around. It's the goal of the internet is to get used to sending stuff around. There's going to be a lot of pleas for money from politicians and everybody else, but we live in a capitalist society where we live with pleas from, or petitions to purchase yellow shoes or red cars or salty snacks or something else. So it's what we want to tune into and what we want to focus on. And if you've got $5, I encourage you to go over and grab one. If you've got $10, grab 2. If you've got more, grab a set and help us get these things made in quantity. It's not a fundraiser. It's just really a way to get the Second Amendment up into people's hands in a different way. They will happen one way or the other, but with this effort, with the combined effort of the crowdfunding, hopefully we'll get it down to where, again, they can be at a price where we can not quite give them away, but basically give them away, right? So thanks again for joining. Thanks, Clover, for jumping in. Yep. And we will talk to you all. What is today? Thursday? I don't know if you got yours chat going on tonight. What's happening?
I'm not sure at this point.
What do you mean you're not sure?
Well, we need to do some Tulsa stuff, so not sure.
You need to do some what?
I said we need to do some consulting on the whole Tulsa thing. So yeah, but I actually created a YouTube Creator Studio, so we were going to kind of walk through and play around with tonight.
I like the idea of talking about Tulsa and talking about this 2A thing. I like putting everything else on hold and going nuts on the 2A thing. So it's going to be an interesting month because everybody was minding their business, doing whatever they were going to do. And then, as we talked about last night, a couple of people said, well, you want to talk about it? Let's put your money where your mouth is. Let's try doing it for once. So a lot of people say, oh, we should do something without the influence of so and so, or we should show how strong we are, or let's have another one of these or something. Well, this is an opportunity for us all to put our money where our mouth is, and I'm willing to take the challenge, but it's easy for me. I've said that before. So, my people that watch what I'm doing or support what I'm efforting for is people that understand this concept. I guess our challenge is to try to bring this mindset to others who are, I don't know, potentially at this point, or kind of maybe it doesn't need to. Everybody doesn't have to be at the same level or the same amount or drive, but if they're kind of thinking about it, here's an opportunity to act on it. If you're like, well, I always thought about doing something, maybe this is the time. I'm not going to suggest this is the time you have to. This will be our only event. In fact, I kind of think if this is successful, or I should say when this will be successful, they were saying last night, they don't care how many people show up, they're going to consider it a success. I'm not quite the same. I'm realistic, and to consider it a success, I think the community has to acknowledge that it's a success, so we don't use it as an example like we did that last night of some of the failures at this effort. But I'm confident that this could easily be a success. The more people that get involved, the less cliquey it'll seem, and the more true to the goal, which is to make it Second Amendment period, as opposed to a Second Amendment period drive promoted by Jeff Knox and Pincus. So once that gets diluted and watered down, which is their intent, and they have from what I can tell, they have to petition it now, but I suspect they're more than happy to step into the background and let it take over and become its own thing, let people petition it in their own way. Once that happens, hopefully we'll see enough people dig this that, again, it doesn't need to be the only one. So if you can't attend it, I'm not saying the sky's falling. I'm not saying we're going to lose all guns if you can't attempt. I'm just saying, for crying out loud, we've been kind of asking the sky for an opportunity to show that we don't need that, or we are individuals. And I don't know. I'm not the kind to not go. If Woodstock would have happened, I would have probably been there. At least tried real hard. I try to pay attention to things like this so that I can experience them. I don't think everyone has the same drive necessarily, but if you understand the significance, or you believe that there is a potential for this to be a significant thing, then this might be the time to put our efforts into gear. Again, we have Every Second Matters so that we remember 2013 and the little bit of effort that everybody did that had great results, echo. And we need to pound on something every once in a while to create an echo, right? We have to make noise every once in a while for there to be an echo. This is an opportunity to make noise. It's not an obligation because we're about to lose. It's not a challenge. It's not like a fear tactic. In fact, I'm pretty sure the antis have dropped guns, right? It's literally going to be a challenge for our community just to pay attention, because our tendency is to give up and quit this crazy defense of liberty as soon as they aren't attacking liberty. Why are you defending it? They're not attacking it, right? It's going to be a challenge on multiple levels. So I'm looking forward to this month. And like, I got this project, I could have said, I'll put this project off to next month or next year, but I didn't. I said, screw it, I'm going to put it all in here. This is about challenging people, and hell, challenging our wallets is part of it. I'm certainly didn't ask to put 1,200 miles each way or whatever it turns out to be on the van. Going to Tulsa is bad enough, 500 miles each way, but I'm down. Like, what the hell? It's what we, have adventures for, so that we can archive what's happening. And if it's a massive failure, then support people like Clover, and the guys out east could use a couple of bucks, I'm sure, to make it a little easier. But support the people that are going so that they can archive what a catastrophic failure it's going to be. And then think about it. Once you've paid them $5, you will be able to rub it in forever. You'll be able to say, yeah, you're the sucker who had confidence in our community, you jerk. And I paid $5 to archive the fact that we suck so bad. So you can't lose. You can't lose by weaponizing your wallet and dishing out dollars. Either, I don't know, look, I just watched my favorite store, right? I really, really like this store for lots of reasons. And they sell cars. Dude, they just sell aisles and aisles of stuff that is like they mine some kind of rock and they pull the orange out of it so that they can mix it with some kind of solvent slurry, which poisons a bunch of people in that location. And then they ship it to some other place where they smear it all over some stupid piece of cutout paper that came from somewhere that's poisoning people. And then they leave a bunch of garbage behind, and it goes to some other factory where they package it in some kind of plastic that killed a bunch of people. Then they ship it with carbon all the way over here to the United States so that they can put it on a shelf. Somebody can come by and go, oh, that's a good deal, and then pay 99 cents for it, put it on their yard for a week, and then throw it in the garbage. Now it's going to be in the landfill. Like, that happens. So we live in that country. So every time you go, oh, that guy's e-begging again. Oh, that guy's e-begging. Yeah, I'm e-begging so I can get in a van. I'm going to drive to your house and I'm going to start picking at all the stupid ass shit you bought that adds up to the $40 we're asking to bring the Second Amendment into a piece of paper into people's hands. Give gun shops a different way to talk to people and give individuals an opportunity to talk to gun shops. So fuck yeah, we're going to challenge people this week, or this month, I guess, and we're going to challenge ourselves. And yeah, you can't lose. If you hate this whole thing and you're pessimistic, get your wallet out. This is the time to cash in on how pathetic we all are for trying to do stuff. And if you don't agree with that, and you see a world where there's no NFA, and there's a challenge to things like 4473s, which makes it impossible to do universal background checks, which allows once you get rid of 4473s nationally, it allows us to put ultimate focus on the states that keep universal background checks and mock them. We remove universal background checks, talk about momentum. Now we can say, what about these short stocks? You've been complaining about short stocks and short barrels for so long. There's precedent for decades of these guns being in the hands of millions of people. You've already shown that your archaic 1990s draconian tyranny never worked. So let's drop this 1930s tyranny for once and for all. And once we have a world where anybody can buy any size, any shape, any rate of firearm, any decibel level, and we still live in the most peaceful, crime-less country in the whole planet, other countries will figure out that that's a scam, and other countries will question their fascism and they'll question their communism, and guns will save this planet. We'll be able to quit fighting with each other. We'll use that resource to look up and create all those anti-gun signs, and all of those gun-free zone signs can be used to make spaceships, and we'll go up into space and guns will create Star Trek.
Mm-hmm.
You're welcome.